We'll have to go back to about 30 some years ago, whenever I had no idea that there was any kind of Christian music other than you went to church and you took a hymnal out of the pew and you started singing. That's what I thought Christian music was. And I remember when my pastor at that time said, "We're going to have a concert here on Sunday night. We're bringing in this group." And I was like, "Okay, well, I've never experienced that before, but I'll go and check it out." I remember that night the artist came in to sing, and I had been to concerts before, but I'd never been to a Christian concert before. And I remember that night as they started to sing, it was good, it was fun, it was entertaining, it was very professional. But then there were moments where suddenly you could start to sense the presence of the Lord was in the room. And it went beyond just singing songs to they were really ministering to people. I remember being really touched by that. And as that concert continued on through the night, as they got closer to the end, they began to lead into an altar call. And there were people that began to respond to that. And I saw people that were coming forward to pray, and we saw people that were giving their life to the Lord. And I thought, man, that is so powerful. So I asked some people, I said, so where do you hear music like this at all the time? And they were like, well, there's some radio stations out there that you can find this. So I remember I found a radio station, they were playing the music, and I'd ride down the road and I'd be listening to the music, just being blessed. Some of the songs blessed me more than others, but hey, I'm listening to it. And I heard an ad come on the radio, and it was about a paid concert that was going to be in Lexington, North Carolina at the Civic Center. So I'm thinking, I'll go check that out. So I remember me and my wife, we went to this concert. I went in, and it was festive. You came in, you go into the auditorium, the concert started, but it was different than church. I was used to whenever we started this concert in church that it was like, sort of like a church service, and they opened up in prayer, and then you really went to the Lord. You asked the Lord to really do something great for that service. It wasn't like that. It was really like a show, which there was nothing wrong with that. I'd been to country concerts and things like that. But that concert that was the paid concert was not like what I experienced when I was in church. It was truly they sang. I didn't hear the same type of testimonies that I heard. And then at the end, it was a big finale and it was over. And I looked around at the people that were sitting in there, and there were people that were in there that were from every background, every walk of life. Some people that were white collared, some people blue collared, some people no collars at all. And I'm thinking to myself, man, what a missed opportunity, because there's people that are sitting in this audience that they may have enjoyed this, but they never heard the true gospel, and they never really found out how to have a relationship with Jesus Christ. And so I remember I came out and I talked to the artist. I thought, okay, well, maybe this artist is just not an artist that does that. And they said, oh no, we'd love to do that. But most promoters tell us people pay to hear you sing, not to hear you talk or preach. And so you need to stick to. I thought to myself, man, I'm not sure about that. I remember the Lord sort of planted in my heart, you know how to do this. You should be. And I'm thinking to myself, Lord, I don't know how to do this. I've never promoted anything in my life. About a year passed, and the Lord continued to impress upon me that that's what I should be doing. And so I stepped out. After I'd ride down the road, I'd listen to the artist. The artists that really blessed me, those were the ones I decided I was going to book. I didn't know anything about music charts, how sales were, anything like that. So I booked this building. It was a 2,000 seat building in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Had a couple of artists that I had booked. And I remember one of the groups, I knew that there was a member in that group who had used to be a preacher. And so I didn't say anything to him in advance about this. I already knew what I wanted, but they stepped off their tour bus, and I said, Jackie, I said, tonight, about halfway through the concert, I said, I would like for you to just stop your set, and I want you to give a message that is evangelistic and tell people the truth about the gospel. And he looked at me like I had three heads. And he said, I've never had anybody tell me that. They always tell me not to talk. And so I said, no, that's really what I want you to do. He said, if that's what you want me to do, he said, you're the boss. So that's fine. So that night, concert started, and we got to that point there in the middle, and Jackie started giving a message. Now, I'm in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, which was at that time the home of R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company. So a lot of people thought, well, this would be a great opportunity to take a smoke break. So about, I would say, 50 to 75 people had walked out. What I didn't tell you is that I was sweating it out before this concert because I didn't know what I was doing, and I was wondering, would anybody come? And if they didn't come, what was that going to do to me financially? And I watched the Lord fill the building completely full that night. So I've got 2,000 people and 50 walked out. Still got a good crowd of people to present the gospel to. He gave the message that night, about 30 people came to Christ. And at that moment, I knew that was what God wanted me to do. Fast forward 33 years later, we've not changed that. We still, not at the end, not some place where people are like, okay, it's really not that important. Right in the middle, at the peak, let's give people the truth of God's word and let them start a relationship with Christ that would change their life. The music will mean a whole lot more to you once you know the one they're singing about.